I'm going to be talking to Nelson Wiseman, who's a professor at the University of Toronto, about recent calls between Prime Minister Mark Carney and US President Donald Trump around trade and security. So, welcome to the interview, Nelson. Now, I gather that there was a phone call on August 21st, yesterday, between the president and the prime minister, another call today. Now we've seen Canada back off its retaliatory tariffs, leave some of them. What's your take on that?
I don't know of any call today. There was a call yesterday, and what we got, my understanding, is an elaboration. Maybe that came today, the elaboration. Uh, what's my take? I think we're moving close to an agreement. I thought that a month ago, 6 weeks ago, I believe that Trump is now pushing for a number of agreements. The content is somewhat less important to him than the image because he has to control the media cycle. And he's been getting bad media in the last few days with respect to especially Ukraine Russia war. But, here I am speculating. Um, what else? That's my take on it. What I saw Carney say, and I think it came out today, it just came out actually in the last few hours, is that they're going to eliminate some of the Canadian tariffs on certain American goods, but not yet on steel, aluminum, and I guess maybe car parts were part of it. Uh, and we'll see. I mean, the Americans are keeping those tariffs on as well. Uh, the Let me think. Actually, the tariffs on Canada are lower than they are on any other country, and only two countries actually imposed counter tariffs: Canada and China.
I know in my social feeds, I'm starting to see elbows down. They're saying this is being seen as a capitulation to Trump, but I, my take on this is that this is part of the negotiating process. And Carney felt that he had to give Trump something in order to keep him at the table in the conversation. Would you agree or disagree?
I agree with you, um, except the last part. I think the conversation's been going on all the time. And when Trump gets involved in a phone call with somebody, he's the one who invariably initiates it. That's why I'm thinking this is really Trump's move. But I don't think the negotiations have ended. I think Canadian ambassador's been working on it. I think Dominic LeBlanc has been on the phone with Lutnick. What I'm seeing in, for example, the Wall Street Journal today is that there's a parallel here between how Trump is dealing with the EU and how he's dealing with Canada. And the fact that he also reached out to the EU, or Lutnick did, and Lutnick suggested it'll be something similar with Canada. So I think the ball is rolling. When will a deal be finalized? I don't know, but it's not going to go on for months. And the real problem will be if they do keep these 50% tariffs on steel and aluminum, uh, that's going to kill the steel industry in the country. On aluminum, Canada is not in as bad shape because the Americans require aluminum. It's cheaper getting it from Canada than elsewhere. Their defense industry, in particular, is reliant on it, and I believe Trump has actually been giving waivers to a lot of American companies to import aluminum. Mind you, Canada's also been giving waivers to a number of Canadian companies on certain tariffed goods, but we just don't get the details because every time a detail would come up, then your social media feed is going to start saying elbows down. No, that's not how negotiations work. And I wouldn't rely on social media. I think we're much better off relying on traditional media like Canadian Press, Wall Street Journal, Globe and Mail, CBC.
Fair enough. I have one more question for you, Nelson, and that is there seems to be discussion now of including some kind of a security agreement within this larger framework. And this, first I've heard of it. Has this been talked about before, or is this new?
Yes, it came up in Carney and Trump's um, first phone call, and and then Trump talked for quite a while about getting in on this Golden Dome, which is at a fantasy level now, and Canada would have to contribute 61 billion. What has struck me is we haven't heard any of that from Trump, oh, in at least 6 weeks, I would say, maybe longer. So that tells me he's back down on that. And anyways, and nobody's got $61 billion to throw into that, especially because there's great skepticism about how that would work. And, whatever, what Canada could offer without putting virtually any money into it is using its land space. This is what happened after during the Cold War, after the Second World War, when we had the DEW line and other lines, which were um, manned stations across the Arctic, which could intercept Russian bombers coming over the pole. But now the technology is really advanced. I'm not an authority on it, but it's always advancing.